Hello, I'm Colonel Jason Fettig, and I'm here in John Philip Sousa Band Hall with the marvelous musicians of the President's Own United States Marine Band. Earlier this year, we began a new video series called the Digital Rehearsal Hall, where we endeavored to pull back the curtain a little bit and show you a glimpse of the Marine Band in actual rehearsal. And today we are at it again, this time with the full band and one of our oldest and most cherished musical friends, Percy Grainger's Lincolnshire Posy. We're going to focus on the first two movements for this episode, but rest assured we will rehearse the rest of the piece in subsequent episodes, so I hope you will stay tuned. Of course, the Marine Band has played this piece many, many times, but one of the most beautiful things about Lincolnshire Posy is that there are always new things to discover, new musical opportunities, and plenty for us to work on. And it changes a little bit every single time we come back to this piece. We have done no group preparation for this open rehearsal. We've simply turned on the cameras, and you are seeing the very first moments of us revisiting this masterwork. We hope you enjoy. Okay, Patrick, please. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisbon, please. Lovely, thank you. Let's jump right into the Duke of Marlborough fanfare here at 37. Pickups 37, trumpets, saxophones, horns, baritone. Can we have you guys just for a moment, please? Here we go. 1, 2. Great, so if we could just really get inside the horn sound, all of this. So trumpets maybe just a shade less, even saxophones, especially upper saxophones, a shade less. Lower saxophones, you can kind of be there with the horns. And I'd also like to start this softer so that that climax on the C flat really feels like a moment. It's only forte, so if we are more conservative at the beginning, I think we can catch that. One more time for me. 36, 37, pickups to 37. 1, 2. That's great, wonderful. That's really a beautiful texture. Kind of in a similar vein at the very beginning of this movement, since the whole thing's kind of A-flat mixolydian, let's focus on that. So horns and bassoons, you're the lead at the opening, and then trumpets, let's be a little bit of a shadow to what they're doing for this little tritonal moment at the beginning. Can we try that right at the top? This is everybody, we'll keep going. Right at the beginning. 1. And let's add to that, everybody, one shade softer. So let's make a little bit more of a conservative mezzo forte, just so it feels kind of almost like it's coming from a distance. Same thing. 1, 2. saxes. Good, wonderful. So the mezzo forte here at 18 is the same dynamic as trumpets, horns, bassoons have at the beginning, but I think the intent is for it to be kind of not too much louder than the beginning. So there's so many more people playing, I think we can be a little more conservative dynamically here too without losing that lilt and that beautiful bounce you have. The people who have the string bass line, euphonium, string bass, tenor sax, bari sax, bass clarinet, bassoon, the kind of opposite rhythm of the melody, you can be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. I think it can be a little bit more to the fore there while the melody plays a little more gently. Let's take it right there, right pickups to 18, please. Here we go. 1, 2. Suspense for the last little cadence here. This last statement of the theme, we'll work backwards here for just a moment if I could. Melody, you've got this, and first of all, Michelle, this is beautiful. Thank you for being ahead of the texture. The readiness of E flat is what we want here. At 64, he's got louden, and then he's got softened slightly, and then he's got louden again for the melody. You almost, I think, have to push it beyond where you want to go at 64 so that soften really does become obvious to everybody. So you can get almost all the way to maybe a forte plus 64, 65, deliberately come back and then push it again through the duplets that he writes out there for you. One thing about the melody at 50, if we could, don't lose the energy at the end of each of these phrases. Because there's a counterline happening in the low winds, sometimes the melody can kind of go away a little bit. So just keep it a little more sustained in between the phrasings at 50, 55, 58, all that stuff. Backing up even further, if I could, for just a moment. Everything is sounding really nice here. 35, 34. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Well, I lost it, but that's okay. That happens. Can we just start at 34? It'll come to me in the moment of this. 34, please. 34. Oh, I know what it was. It was 26. All the way back at 26. Saxophones and everybody who's got a quarter, eighth, dotted quarter. Can we be deliberately tenuto on this? So the melody's going dun da dun da 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 da, but you guys are ba da dee da. So you're leading into that accented downbeat suspension at 26, and then a fairly dramatic decrescendo over the next four bars. So let's try that. 18 is where we'll start. 18. 1, 2. think there's a temptation, because there's so much of Grainger, it's so beautiful and so melodic, to slow down a little bit more than I think he intends. Really try to take Grainger literally here at the end, slow off slightly. So there's so many times when he says slow off lots or just slow off, that this one he goes out of his way to say don't do too much. I think that the melody is so simple that we don't want to over-romanticize the end of this. And then, of course, the next movement is very fluid and very dramatic, so it doesn't foreshadow that too much. This last 4 bars, as we know, is so subtle the way he's written these dynamics, but I think if we do them exactly the way he's got them, it's so cool. 3rd bar from the end, we have the melody kind of peaking at that part, and then the 2nd bar from the end, we have this retardation, tenor saxophone, English horn, 3rd clarinet. 3rd clarinet gets some love, everybody. So if we could push, not only push that forte for those 3 voices in that retardation, but everybody else, if you could deliberately get down to mezzo forte by the penultimate bar, it'll make that crossing wave that happens even that much more obvious. The melodic stuff at 64 is beautiful. I mean, that really makes a huge difference to me. So thank you. Let's just take the end of this once more, and then we'll move on to Horkstow Grange. This is pickups to 50, please. Pickups to 50. Here it is. 1, 2. Wonderful. 2 things here before we move on, and again, in the last few bars, I could use even more of the crescendo into that retardation, and then everybody should do the maximum decrescendo in the bar before the end, so that it goes from forte for the people doing the suspension and mezzo forte, but then all the way down to piano minus. So let's keep it almost like a pianissimo if we could, given who's playing. Let's see if we can catch that exactly that way. Let's do 64, please. Pickups to 64. Let's back up a little bit. That's awkward. Same place, 50. 50. It's maybe just a smidgen too loud now, Michelle, so let's split the difference. 1, 2. Lovely. Good. Let's move on. 2nd movement. We never get tired of playing that piece. As you can hear, that movement is so gorgeous, and there's already feeling right into it. We're going to work on the beginning in a second, but I wanted to point out to you that those of you who know this piece well, you heard the band playing without breaking those phrases in the first statement of this folk tune. And of course, there's different ways to do it. As wind players, we can't play all the way through there without breathing, but we have chosen often in our past performances to do it this way because it's so beautiful the way that Grainger has put these long phrase marks, but you have to do some staggering and some sharing of the breathing responsibilities. And that's a technique that we use when we do music like this, just to give you a behind the scenes of why we play it that way. So at the very beginning, speaking of that, I think maybe it might be fun to try a little bit of micro phrasing off without necessarily breathing. We could keep this long line going, but after the first two bars, da-da-da-dee-da-dee, almost just the tiniest bit of daylight as a folk singer would without breathing, so we're kind of splitting a difference. And the same thing bar after 6, so just a little bit of a phrase off without breathing. And then this elision into 10 is so gorgeous the way that we do it. So let's keep that as we go. Can we just play the beginning again, and I'll try not to stop if I don't have to. I do tend to move this a little bit too. This is done at a lot of different tempos, but I try to adhere to Grainger's marking of 76 and singing. So for me, there's a kind of walking while singing and playing this piece rather than something that's really too funereal. Even though this is kind of a funeral piece in a major key, as Fred Fennell called it, there is something beautiful about keeping it moving forward and really adhering to the lyrics that go along. Here we are. Just two things, ladies and gentlemen, here. One, I would love to push the dynamic swells just one notch higher than we're doing. So especially on the soft side, let's push it up to the fortes and get down as much as you can. And then the moving eighth notes are generally great. The ones I'm missing are in second clarinet and second alto saxophone in the third bar. Da-da-da, that one can come out a little bit more. Anytime you have eighth notes, of course, more espressivo as we go through there. One more time, and we'll keep going. It's beautiful horns, saxes, thank you. This is a personal preference, but something that I think is important to decide. 17, the 16th note going into 17, which is kind of a quasi-grace note, as we have in many parts of this. Sometimes if we slow down a little bit too much, it sounds like we're putting it on the beat. Ya-da-da-da. And I really think it's important that we put it before the beat. This is just my opinion. Be-dum-ba-da, which means that we've got to put a little more weight on the whole note. And de-emphasize the 16th just a bit. And I'll give you a hint that at the very end, which is even slower, I feel the same way about the grace note in the last bar. So sometimes we go dee, da, da, which is very beautiful, but let's try to go dee, da, da, where we really feel the weight on the whole note. Within diminuendo at triple piano, which is of course very difficult. The melody, everything about this is gorgeous. We're gonna go on in just a second. Thank you for lingering with me at 14. There's not an indication from the composer to do that, but the harmony there, that seventh chord, really invites us to spend some time on the first two beats, especially with those accents under the slur in the melody, folks. Be, ya, ha, ha. Good solid breath accents, I think, is appropriate there. Can we take 10, please, and we'll go on? Right at 10. Very sweetly here. 3, 4. Thank you, bravo. So this voice that calls out from the wilderness, we need to give him as much space as we can, which we're doing in our pedal that we have at the beginning of the trumpet solo. I'll welcome you, Brandon. Also, where I'm standing, you can even do more of these tone swells. So you can get a little more quirky, I think, in the way you play. Ya-da-da-dee-da. Anything you want to do, I think Grainger says it's okay. We also have to be sensitive when we get to 25, and actually we can kill two birds with one stone. 25, we got fortissimo in the accompaniment, 2-beat diminuendo to piano or mezzo piano. Let's do as much as we possibly can, almost to the point where the audience is like, what is going on there? Ya, dee. And then we can keep it down, delay that crescendo where it says louden so that Brandon has some space to play the rest of his solo, especially when you get down to the written F, you've got to push, right? And then he breathes. But for the 3-2 bar, we're sensitive with him there. And then let's hold off just a little bit on that crescendo, maybe mezzo forte in the middle of that 3-2 bar so he can finish his solo. He has a diminuendo, then we take over in the 3-4 bar. And then that sets off for the full band iteration at 29. We try that one more time, and then we'll take the end. And I have one more thing I want to address at the end, and then we're going to wrap it up. Here we go, 17. 2 bars of kind of just suspended animation here. I'm not going to rush through these bars if I can. 17, 3, 4. That's great. So at 34, the ultimate climax of this movement, triple forte, there's a harmonic moment in here that we're all aware of, but I want to make sure that we've got it just right. Can I have, let's see who it is. So it's alto sax 1, tenor sax, trumpet 2 and 3, horn 2, 3, 4, first trombone. So I'm looking for these A naturals and then the D naturals on beat 3 against the melody. Could we have those folks and then everyone who plays the melody? So clarinets, soprano sax, first trumpet, flutes, oboes at 34. Right at 34, just those folks together. 3 and 4. Yeah, so the D natural's coming through loud and clear, a little bit more of the A. It sounds stark here, but when we put all the rest of the harmonies in it, it'll be just right. This was a moment that the story goes that Grainger actually smiled when he heard the band play this for the first time. Because it sounds wrong, right? But it's exactly right. It's this little heartache, this little kind of pain in the middle of this beautiful melody, and then it subsides to the very end of the piece. So let's play that there and see if we can bring that out. Let's have one more time through at 30, and then we will finish up. Right at 30, please. Let's get that grace note. Everybody just play the last bar. The last bar, if we could. Beat off, 3 and 4. 3 and 4. That's it. So it's going to feel like the grace note's a little bit out of time to the slowdown, but I think that's okay in this context. One more time at 34 for everybody, and we'll be done. 34. 3 and go! Beautiful. Thank you. And thank all of you for joining us for the beginning of our Lincolnshire Posy series. Next time, we're going to have Roofer Park Poachers and the Brisk Young Sailor, so I hope you will tune in and join us for the very next episode of the Digital Rehearsal Hall.